Oh, another double dose of goodness. First, we are joined by former Bass Nation national champion Maddie Wong, who just fished his way back on to the Bassmaster Elite Series. And as if that's not enough, also joined by Bassmaster Opens EQ angler Logan Parks with a very special announcement at the end of all of this. But first, Maddie Wong joins me from Hawaii this week on...
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
So we are going to do this again. It is Wednesday. Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks. You're all welcome here at the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes by my last name, which is Mercer. I hope you are all having a great week and things are good in your world. If not, hopefully this gives you a little distraction from that, and we appreciate you tuning in each and every week. Great show this week. Multiple guests. We're going to be joined by Logan Parks with a very special announcement at the end with an event he's working on. We're going to be joined by Maddie Wong, who just did something incredible, literally fished himself back onto the Bassmaster Elite Series. I mean, he was mathematically this close to being mathematically eliminated from the Bassmaster Elite Series and having to go back and requalify, but had a tremendous tail end to the season, and he really opens up about a whole bunch of stuff in today's show, so that's going to be fun. And as I said, we're going to be joined by Logan Parks at the end of this show, where he's going to talk about something that is going to be fun, and that is the word of the week, fun. It starts with an F, but it is very different than another word that starts with an F that seems to get thrown around a lot lately. I want to talk about something. And we've talked about it on this show. We have talked about forward-facing sonar a lot. Some people love it. Some people hate it. It is such a divisive topic. But I want to talk about just that because I am seeing people argue online and they are so certain. They are so set in their ways that this is going to ruin the sport. This is the worst thing ever. And then I have other people who are saying this is the best thing ever. This allows us to learn more about fish. We've learned more about fish since this has been invented that maybe we did for the previous 10, 15 years. I mean, things that we thought was fact has been proven wrong by forward-facing sonar. So those are kind of your two sides of the argument. I'm not falling on either side. But here's the side that I'm falling on. If you love forward-facing sonar and somebody hates it, they're not your enemy. If you hate it and think it is the worst thing for the sport and somebody loves it, they are not your enemy. Because there is real enemies to all of us anglers. And they're people who don't want us to fish. So remember, when you are out there firing shots at people, that's not your enemy. I mean, we all love this sport. We do it. I mean, people do it in different ways. People, there's people that love to fly fish. I don't sit there and trash talk fly anglers. I mean, it's no different than in the hunting world, a gun hunter trashing a bow hunter. I mean, I know there's always jokes in communities, but the way this has gotten so aggressive and so destructive, and it sucks. It sucks. Remember why we all got into this, why we all fell in love with this sport. I mean, it happened for all of us at different times. Some of us were kids, some of us were later in life, some of us all over the board. But, it happened with all different kinds of fish. It happened in all different parts of the country, the world, in all different types of water, some in the ocean, some in the rivers, some in lakes, some in creeks, some in streams, some in ponds. It happened everywhere. But those are the people I relate with because they get it, if you ask me. They decided this is something that I need to have part of my life. I mean, I don't think that me fishing is even a choice. I mean, I believe it's honestly something I need in my life. Without it, just ask my family, I get real grumpy when I haven't fished for a while. So I'm not choosing a side. I'm not pushing a side. And the weird thing about forward-facing sonar is as soon as you say it, somebody wants to inject you into a side. I've seen things like Swindle's poll a couple of weeks ago. Shame on you. The people that read into different things like, oh, he doesn't want it because of this. His direct question was simply, do you want to watch it? That's all he asked. And people gave their opinion. A lot of people gave their opinion. But some people took that and said, this means this. A bunch of other pros have been singled out for different things they've brought out. Guys, because someone uses forward-facing sonar, because someone chooses not to use it, they are not the enemy. Remember that. Because while you're distracted arguing with fellow anglers, there's a group that is trying to take the sport away from us. And that's no joke. There's literally people working every day to take the sport away from us, to take opportunities away from us, to shut down areas that are close to the people. That's what frustrates me. And I'm sorry that this was a little bit of a rant, but I'm just saying, your fellow angler is not the enemy. You may not like it. You may love it. But the person you're arguing with over forward-facing sonar is not the enemy. So let's unite and be a little bit more positive. And, and that's all I got for you. So somebody's going to get mad at this probably, but literally what my message is, for those of you that didn't listen to the rant, another angler is not your enemy. That's all. That's all. So let's get a little bit more positive. And there is probably no guest. I mean, there's a few positive dudes in the fishing world, but this dude is one of the most positive guys. I mean, I think this dude is so good for the Elite Series. I literally ran up and gave him a hug the first day he fished. Before we ever introduced, hugged him and said, dude, I'm so glad you are here. Because he brings so much and such a different outlook on things. And what he did the last month or so is amazing. Basically mathematically eliminated from the Elite Series. But guess what? The numbers didn't add up right because he hammered them and he got himself back on the Bassmaster Elite Series. So let's find him right now. Let's travel all the way to Hawaii. Yeah, Maddie Wong. We travel all the way to Hawaii to have a boost of positivity here from one of the most positive individuals I know on earth. Maddie Wong, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm really good. It feels so nice to be back home. Hear the birds chirping outside. Hear my chickens. Let me know by any chance, like if they start getting a little too loud, I'll close the window. But it's just nice to have the fresh mountain breeze and everything, kind of like a nice little reset. So it's been a great soul recharging experience being home, being able to see my family, being able to spend time in the ocean and a lot of my old friends. So it's been really nice, man. So good morning.
Good morning. Good evening.
Good evening.
It's a lot different trip than it could have been for you, though. Like, really, if you look at and dude, I've talked about it a lot, and I don't think you can get. Here's the thing about pro fishing: you're number one, you're never not under pressure. Like that for the rest. If you're gonna be a pro angler, you're under pressure. Now, we had anglers going into that event that were under the pressure to try and win Angler of the Year, Rookie of the Year, try to qualify for the Classic. They're all pressure, but I think that the biggest amount of pressure is the pressure that you face, dude. Like the Angler of the Year pressure seems bigger. I'd say it's more rare because you just only have so many shots in your career where that's a thing. Mm-hmm. But dude, like you literally were fishing for your career. You literally like you were, and I'll explain to a lot of the bass folks there. I'm like, could you imagine like if I had 3 events left and they said, hey, if you screw up any name if you screw up one intro, you might not have this job next year. But that's literally the situation you were in. You had 3 events left to go, and you needed to have, I mean, you were all but mathematically eliminated from the Elite Series. Is that, and I don't mean that as an insult. I just
100%.
want people to realize
Yeah,
the hurdle that you had ahead of you heading into the final 3 events of your Elite Series career, potentially.
Yeah.
What did that feel like at that? Like, how? I mean, it's easy now to go back and be like, I had to let it go and I had to, but I mean, there had to be some of this, like,
100%.
what the hell?
Yeah, it was, I mean, there's obviously, you go through all the different ranges of emotion, right? So you first, you the self-pity, right? And you're like, oh man, I wish I did that. And then you have like, dang, I suck. Then you like go through like all these things in your head, like, man, I wish I would have done this earlier. I wish it, and then you have like the Monday quarterback, right? And then it came into like the depression part where it's like, man, like people are like, dude, I would love to see you next year again, because like now I'm so grateful that I have this incredible support group of incredible fans, and everyone's like, man, I want to see you keep competing. I'm like, I want to keep competing too, but like these guys are really good and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Like, I mean, and so I went through all these different things to the point where I was like, all right, well, did the math. I'm not really good at it, like when it comes to all the points. I mean, there's so many factors that play into it, but I was able to narrow it down to, I had to at least check the last 3, minimum check the last 3, and then even top 30 the last 2. So like that was like the way that I had worked it out in my head, where I'm like, okay, this is my goal. This is like, okay, I have that minimal check, and then I have to at least try to get up in like the top 30s range. And it was before we headed north. I put time on St. Clair. I went up with Johnny, and we went up and we pre-fished for a week, put in time there. I've never been there, so put in time.
Jonathan Kelly, isn't Johnny?
John Kelly, aka
okay.
So was there with Pebs. We went for a week, and then we went and spent a week on the St. Lawrence as well. And we were going to go up to Champlain, but Champlain had like this crazy thunderstorm roll through, and it just wasn't going to be good for the amount of time we had to fish and whatnot. But I've been so last year, what I did is any type of time that I had off, I was missing my family and my friends so much that I was just like, I'm just coming back. So I would just fly back to California. I think I went back to Hawaii once, and I just needed, like, I needed the recharge, And so this year I told myself, you know what? This could potentially be my last year. I'm going to put all, like, however this year shakes out, I don't want to live with regret. And like, I don't want to live with that feeling of I didn't try hard enough. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to sacrifice coming home, seeing, the people that I love. I'm just going to stay out on the road the entire time. And I'm going to put in as much pre-practice as I possibly could. And so when the end of the season started to near, I started to get this like pit in my stomach where I'm like, man, like I'm putting in all this work. I'm freaking bleeding. I'm trying to sleep well. I'm like dehydrated. All these things. I'm like, why am I not fishing well? And you, like we had said before the start of the show, it's like sometimes when you try to put in too much work and too much effort into something and you care so much about it, you slip because of whatever preconceived crap you put in your head versus being able to just let go. And it got to the point where it started no longer being fun. And that's actually was like a huge kind of turning point for me mentally. I'm like, you know what? This isn't fun anymore. Like I was working so hard. I was like not eating good, not sleeping well, trying to put like I get an eye twitch, and it was like all these things. I'm like, this isn't good for me mentally, like health wise. Like this is like, I don't know if this is like the direction I want to be going right now. And I was like, if everything just disappeared right now and I just go back to Hawaii, I'd be fine with it. And there was a couple of times like that earlier this year, where I was just out on the road grinding, sleeping in Airbnbs, air mattresses, couches, whatever. And I'm like, this sucks, like, and it sucked, man. And I remembered what Brandon, Paul, and Nick told me and he's been more than like a really great friend. He's been like an awesome mentor to me, and someone who I was like a super fan of before we even knew each other. And now to call him like a good friend of mine is like such a cool feeling. And you know, he told me something at the beginning of my rookie year, and he says, just make sure that you have fun, and make sure that like you don't lose track of that, because as soon as you stop having fun, that's when it becomes work. And I've reached that before. And I was like, how could you feel that? You're a professional fisherman. Like, in this, I was still in this kind of like ignorant bubble of not knowing what actually went on tour, or what it took to do the tour. And I'm like, that would never happen to me. That's crazy. I love fishing. Like, I literally like live it, breathe it, eat it every day. And then it happened. And it was this like crazy like aha moment where I'm like, dang, dude, like the dream can really be like just like a normal 9 to 5 job. And yeah, you have certain perks of it. And for me, my perks and like the things that I was looking forward to were like the fans, like meeting kids that were fans, being able to talk with you on stage, being able to like do the media stuff. Like that was the fun part for me. But then the actual fishing part became more and more like a job. Like on day one of practice, if I wasn't finding the right pattern that I wanted to fish, or if I wasn't like being able to make the right adjustments, I was starting to get really bummed. I'm like, this sucks, you know. Like, as a positive person, I was like having a lot of negative thoughts. And
is that harder when you're a positive person? Do you think, you know, because
well, yeah, because you have everyone's
outwardly,
you're everyone's like, you're the positive guy on tour, you know, you're I'm like, I'm also human.
Yeah.
Right. And so every human, regardless of whatever the media may betrayal or whatever, like, I mean, one of my best friends who committed suicide a few years back was like literally the most outwardly positive person, always had a biggest smile on his face, always had a ukulele in his hands, playing songs, singing. Everyone that knew Jesse was like, wow, he's the most positive person. But I knew the demons that he was fighting, right? And everyone has something that's going on in their life that you don't know. And so that's why I always try to preach like positive mindset and Allah in your heart, because just having compassion for someone on a day-to-day, whether it's letting someone in on traffic or like letting, you know, just even a wave, can change someone's just outlook on the day, because sometimes people are literally living day to day. And I'm grateful that I don't struggle with depression, or I don't struggle with these, you know, with these really tough demons that like some of my friends have struggled with in the past. And but at the same time, I'm human, and you do have those thoughts of negativity. You do have those self-doubt thoughts. You still have a lot of those things that you have to combat. And for me, I always try to, okay, I gotta breathe. I go back to like my free diving days. I go back to, you know, my days of competition in surfing and in free diving and performing, where before like taking a stage in front of thousands of people, it's okay. Take a breath. You gotta reset yourself. Why are you feeling this? What can you do about it? Can't do nothing. Okay, let's change it. It's mindset is something that we can all manipulate internally, because we can be having the most crappiest day, but all it takes is like making an inside joke with yourself, or to find something funny and trigger a laugh. And just by audibly laughing can change your whole demeanor. And so I told myself, you know what, I got to start making this fun again. So on practices that I knew it wasn't going to be a glide bait bite, I just went out half the day just trying to go get a glide fish. I'm like, I'm gonna go have fun. I want to go get bit on a glide right now. And while I knew I was supposed to be like looking for other things, I'm like, I need to make this fun for me. And then sure enough, with that, in that process, I'm like, oh, maybe, you know what? Maybe I should throw like a rip bait right by this tree and then stick one. I'm like, oh, bing. So it's kind of like the universe throwing you back a bone after you had made this adjustment mentally, where you're like, bro, I suck. This fishing sucks. This lake sucks. And then to go from like, I just want to go have fun. Like I want to bring it back to like the root of it all for me, which is fun, not the unknown, right? Not like looking down at my electronics, not like, looking all this stuff. And I'm just like, I want to go have fun, catch a couple fish. And I'm like, and then like universe throws you like a part of the clue. And I'm like, okay, sweet. Change my whole mindset. And from there, it was able to, it became easier. But not having that underlying current of, you know what, if you don't do well these last 3 tournaments, you're gone. So what are you going to do? So like I'm also the type of person, being like an entrepreneur, I'm not going to just also sit back and just start moping like, okay, well, I didn't requalify, what am I going to do? It's like, no, I'm been working with my friends in Hollywood, like I want to create a show, like I want a fishing show. And it's something that I've always said, actually, before I wanted to compete, like ever since I was a little kid, watching fishing shows in Hawaii, watching Bill Dance, watching Roland Martin, everyone. And that's always been something that I've always wanted to do. And so now having this platform, I'm like, okay, I think we can find ways to create a show. And now I got to put that on the back burner. But it was something that I'm like, okay, this is what I'll have, because I wanted to have a product that I can now take to my sponsors and say, yes, I didn't requalify for the elites, but I have something equally or even more appealing to you when it comes to, new eyes, new demographic, new audience, etc. And so with that rolling, I was able to still maintain like hope in a way. I'm like, okay, that would be a new challenge for me in my life. And as much as the elites was a challenge, like this would be a whole new set of challenges that I would have to go through, and a whole new set of hurdles that I would have to go through. So that was like, okay, that I'm going to have that. But my divine focus right now is on the Elite Series and on requalifying, because I know that if I can requalify and fish a 3rd year, I can grow that much more of a fan base. I can impact that many more people, and I could potentially go and snag myself a blue trophy and maybe requalify for the Classic next year and win that. So it was like a rejuvenating wind in the sails, to when I didn't completely blow it on St. Clair, day 2, I was able to come back with the bag, a little bit better of a bag, and managed to make a baby check. Like that was like again, another bone from the universe. Like, here you go. Here's some gas money in like your hotel stay. And I'm like, okay, that wasn't a complete fail. And then to go to Champlain and then kind of like bust it open day 1 and figure it out. Like day 1 of practice, I had like 20, 21 pounds. Day 2, I had like another 20 pounds. Day 3, I was like, okay, I need to go find new water, because I think I'm on it, And so that was like a huge turning point, because I'm like, okay, I think I could probably top 10 this one. I might even be able to win it. And I started, and because of that experience on the Sabine, being so close to a win, now that ceiling's gone. Like I no longer have to bust that glass ceiling.
Yeah.
Like it like mentally, I'm like, oh yeah, I've been there. I could do that. Like these guys put their pants on just like I do in the morning. What's any different? It's your head. It's the mental blocks that we put, right? It's those milestones that until we break through it and actually conquer it, that's when you can actually say like, oh, that's cake. And so being able to do that, I was like, oh yeah, top 10, I can top 10 Champlain. And just day 3 didn't go as planned, dumped some fish. I can confidently say that I would have been in the top 10 if I would have landed the fish that I had hooked up. But that's fine, because then I still finished up where I needed to. Kinda, not really. I was still 40 something. I dropped from like 12th down to like 43rd or something. It was a big drop, because I only had, I think, like 12 or 13 pounds, and that just amounted pressure for the St. Lawrence. Yeah. And on top of that amounted pressure, Bass was like, oh, to make it even for the people that are fishing Monday, the 10 anglers that made the final, we're going to cut everyone's practice to 2 days. And oh, by the way, there's 30 mile per hour gusts out of the southeast. on the Great Lakes. So pick your spots wisely, because there's a high probability that you probably won't be able to get to your spot on day one. And so that threw an entire different wrench in another thing. But I felt good about my mindset going into it, knowing, okay, these places are going to be protected. This is what I need to kind of do. But after my practices, like day one of practice, I only had 17, maybe 18 pounds. And then day two, I caught 2 fish in the river. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh, well, I gave it my all. I got some fish out here. Like, I know I got a 5-pounder on this one boulder, but I don't know what else is going to go down. And then to roll out there and sack 25-14 or 25-10, I think. Yeah, day one. Yeah, 25-10. I was like, okay, let's see if we can do it again. And yeah.
When you left the dock on day one of the final event of 2023, so you basically figured you were going to start hosting a fishing show. Like, you've been planning this and hey, we're going to go have another. At what point during that day was it that day, or was it later on in the tournament where you were like, wait a second, I might not have time for this pesky fishing show?
It's funny because I didn't really, I completely blocked that out of my head. I didn't want to give that too much thought, because I knew that would take my focus away from like the job at hand. So as much as it would like want to creep back in, I would silence it as fast as I could and then refocus in on what I was doing right in front of me. I think the most emotional day though was day 3. So this was a story that I mean, not a lot of people know. So it was day 2. I came in with, what was it, like 1910 or something around then. Like it was enough to make me fish day 3.
Yeah.
So I had checked, and I'm like, okay, I made day 3. I get a call from Steve Bowman, and he goes,
oh yeah, I've heard this.
he goes, hey man, like, hey, like, good job. First of all, for making day 3. You suck for not being able to join me on live, but because we always have this joke, because he likes having me on live with them, and I enjoyed being on live in the mix with both of you guys. But then he goes, you have to beat 5 guys tomorrow to fish next year, so don't let off. I don't mean to pressure you, but you need to fish well and beat 5 guys tomorrow to requalify. And I just got like chills thinking about it, because I was my girlfriend's been traveling with me the past 2 events, and it's been really nice to be able to, like, at the end of the day, unplug, go home. And then she's like, hey, you want to watch a show? And I'm like, for sure. When I'm traveling with Pebs, we're like retying and talking about fishing the whole time versus like just. And so I remember getting off the phone with him and looking at my girlfriend and saying, like, I have to beat 5 guys tomorrow. She's like, how do you know that? And I'm like, well, I mean, he did the math. I don't know how many points or whatever. She's like, well, don't think about that. We have this Nat Geo show we're watching. And I'm like, oh, all right. And I went back to rigging, and in the morning, Ed Lochran came up to me and he goes, hey dude, good job. Don't fall down anymore, because you have to move up. You have to stay where you're at or move up, or else you're not going to requalify. Like, I don't mean to put pressure on you. And I'm like, Ed, by you telling me this is putting pressure on me.
Yeah, 100%. What a
I was just like,
the dumbest move
in my head. Like, I was just like, but Ed's a great guy, and I don't think, and he has his quirks, but I don't think that it was intentional. I think it was just like, all right, like, this is what you got to do. And I'm like, dude, it's obvious. No crap, I got to do that. But so that was another thing, like literally right before I was about to get in line. And
wow.
And so I get in line, and this is when I had the exact same. It was interesting. So if you guys go back on my YouTube and watch the blast off on the national championship in 2001, you actually see me like come to tears. I had a GoPro facing me, which now looking back, I wish I would have done this for that day 3, but I didn't know it was going to hit me like this. But as I'm blasting off and you're announcing me, I had this like this overwhelming cloak of of it was, I don't want to say it was like negativity, but it was super heavy because it was like, this might be my last elite day. Like this literally might be the last day I ever fish on the elites as a professional bass fisherman for Bassmaster. And seeing everyone, on the docks, like, good luck, Maddie, go get him, Maddie. And then to hear your voice like ring out on the microphone, and then to like hit the kill switch one last time, and just like to go through just like anyone like in an office space, to go through your daily things, your daily check as you're going, and where it's become, there's certain things that just almost become mundane, but then to when you're walking away from a job for the last time, to be like almost nostalgic when you're doing it, you're just like, man, this is the last time I'm gonna be like doing this, like, and then all these memories start flushing in, and so it was like memories, emotions, all this stuff as I'm going out. I like had to take a really deep breath, and I threw my arms out to the side just to kind of like wash it off. I think I hit myself in the chest, like, all right, bro, like, you got this, saddle in. And I had my Marshall. He was 16 years old, and he's just like this bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Grom that was just pumped to be a part of the whole scene. And he's filming. I'm like, hey, dude, can you film? And he's like filming the whole time like this. I asked him like to film like that, and he's just like in the moment filming like this. I'm like filming out, so like not filming me or any of this other stuff. But I'm just like, this is classic. And and then just to go out. And I remember like I'm not a super, like, I have faith, but I'm not a very, very religious person. Like, I studied religion in college. I grew up a very strong, like, Protestant Christian. But then like I had a lot of like different view changes throughout my life. But I still have I do have core values and a faith. And so I remember I started praying on the way out, and I said, you know what, if this is your plan, and I'm going to requalify, then that is what it is. This is your plan. If it's not, and I fall flat on my face today and I don't make it in, and I have a bag, or like whatever happens, it's going to happen. And I'm like, boom, amen. I had that cloak instantly just like blasted off as I was going 60, flying, and like it just ripped off my shoulders. And I was able to breathe really clearly, like very, like just easily blasting forward, relaxing. I had and I think I was able to just like, oh, okay, chill, go out there, stop on a place. I only had a couple 3-pounders. First fish was a 4. Stop to my other spot, catch another 4, catch a 5. I was gonna go and run to some other water that before the cut, Johnny had told me, I'm like, dude, I'm out of fish. Day 2, I only had 20 pounds or something like that. And I was like, man, I'm out of fish. Like, can you, what's going on? He's like, dude, I got a bunch of like 3.5 to 4 pounders here. I'm like, sweet. That's my plan B, and I ended up getting out there, and Johnny goes like, dude, just fish the day, man. And I remember like that would just kind of keep popping into my head. And so as I was catching like betters, I'm like, maybe they refilled, maybe they're back again. And so I stuck around a little bit longer. My plan was to stay there if I had about 20 pounds, or about what was it, 19 pounds or something like that. I was gonna like go and boost over there and leave. And I remember it was noon and I caught a 5, and I was like, maybe I should stick around a little bit more. And 20 minutes later, I caught another like high 4, and I'm like, I'm so glad I stayed. So at this point, I had 21 pounds and I had like a high 3, and I was like, the average bag is about 19.5 to 20 pounds. Like, I don't think I'm going to move up much with 21 pounds. Like, I need to get rid of this high 3. And I had about 45 minutes left in the day of fishing when I had to calculate my run in. And I start blasting back to the spot. I was like, you know what? We're going to go hit the first spot, and then we're going to go and check in on this other stuff that Johnny and I found. And as I'm ripping over there, I had something kind of, whether it was my boy Jesse looking down on me, or it was just like the same feeling that I got during nationals where I'm like, I should pull in on this tree. Something's telling me to stop. It was a shoal. And I remember I'm like, oh, I just got to stop here. I like shut down. I never fished it, never idled it, no, nothing. I shut down on top of this shoal, pull the trolling motor. The rock looked amazing. I start looking around, and within 2 minutes, I find two bigs. I flip over to the first one. It eats. It's a 4.25. I get it in the boat, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I called that small three, and I'll get it in the boat, run back up to my trolling motor, click, done. My trolling motor battery's completely dead.
Come on.
I've never had this happen the entire season. So I start going through all the things like, did I blow a fuse? I didn't share this with any other podcast, Dave. So this is exclusive. All my battery's dead, like, or my trolling motor battery's dead. I run powerhouse lithiums. They're incredible batteries, and I was like, I have so much confidence in those batteries where it wasn't even a thought, you know. And I'm like, I start looking through everything, and I'm like, maybe it's a fuse. It's got to be a fuse. I pull up my app and I check my batteries, and they're completely dead. So I'm like, oh, dude, I'm like screwed. And so I pull my trolling motor, I put my life vests on, I grab my drop shot, I fire up the big motor, and I start idling around. Like look back over my shoulder, dump like when I see a blip, like dump it back. I actually got bit twice, but I didn't land them. And I fished the last half an hour like that. And this kid was like Snapchatting me, like, bro, look what my pro's doing right now. I'm just like tripping out. And I didn't catch any fish doing that, but I was like, I'm not gonna give up. Like, I'm not gonna give up, even though like this is what's went down. Come to find out, there's nothing wrong with my batteries. My girlfriend, the night before, when she was closing up the house, there was these twinkly lights outside that was plugged in on the same outlet as my boat, and so she just flicked the light switch off.
Oh,
so that killed the twinkly lights, but it also killed my boat from charging. And I was like, honey, I hope you realize you almost costed me my career. And so it's everything happened the way it needed to. I came in, I weighed 22.14 or whatever it was. It was like, you know, and I had there was an emotional time on stage with me because I didn't know. Like I was like, it's gonna be close, man. But like, if this is the last time that I get to share the stage with you, I wanted everything needed to come out. So it was like all the emotions, all my gut feelings of what my experience was as a Elite Series professional, and I wanted to share that with everyone because of this like I said, it was an incredible journey, an incredible adventure, and however it shook out, this is what it was meant to be. But it with all those people there, because there was like, I don't know, if it felt like at least 1,000 people. It was a pretty good crowd there. Like
decent crowd, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what? Like this, I can't hold this back, man. And little Nevaeh, Bill Owen's daughter, she came up to me after. She's like, I, and she had her glasses on, so I didn't. She's like, I promised myself this wasn't gonna happen today, and I'm like, what? And she pulls her glasses down, and she has a tear running down her face, and I was like, oh my gosh, dear, I'm sorry. And so I gave her a big hug, and it was. I guess like a couple other people felt that same emotion in the crowd, and came up and gave me a hug after, which I'm always down for a hug. And so it was an emotional time, man. Like to think back and to kind of to try to relive that for the story. It was a really intense emotional time. And then I sat there right next to the trailer, watched the rest of the weigh-ins with Johnny and my girlfriend, and he was like all on top of it, like looking at the points. He's like, dude, if Zaldane drops to this, if he like sandbags it all, like he's gonna bump you out and you won't make that. And I remember Emily with Bass, she's like, hey, stick around, the top 10. And I'm like, top 10? I didn't even look at Bass Track at this point. I was just so like, I was so much at peace with however the day was gonna run out. I was just like, I'm not even gonna like check Bass Track. And so after she told me, hey, Bass Track has you in 9th right now, I'm like, yeah, but there's still like 15 minutes of fishing left. So like one of these guys are gonna catch it. Because that's what happens. When you fish the elites, you can't let like 5 or 10 minutes, 15 minutes. That's a lot of time that someone can go and catch a 5-pounder.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that doesn't really mean much. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, well, shoot, I think I moved up because I was sitting in like 19th place or something like that. I'm like, then that means I'm right there. It's gonna be so close. And as they all came up, the people that I needed to kind of slip up were slipping, and managed to squeeze into the top 10 and to get my second top 10 of this year, and to have you get the pleasure to have you yell at me yeah, was awesome, man. And so that was like, as much as I didn't win a national championship, it was almost the exact same feeling that I got during winning the nationals, being able to requalify in front of that crowd, and to have the immense amount of support from everyone come and me like, dude, I'm so stoked that you requalified. Like, that was an incredible battle.
And you think that's what I was saying at the very beginning with, that's how different this trip home could have been. Like, it all of a sudden changed from being like, man, you did us proud, you had your shot, to, I mean, just another chapter and stuff you've overcome to get to where you are. It's pretty amazing, dude. It was an amazing thing to see happen. So I guess, how do you stay there? How do you stay wherever you were the last few events? Like, I mean, 2 of your best finishes.
Yeah.
How do you not, you know what I mean? Because it's so, like, I look at your career on the elites. I mean, it's so shocking. It's only 2 years. Like, if you look at, like, how different are you today? Like, going into season 3, how different will you be than what you were like going into season 1?
Oh, just eons different. Just eons different, man. I felt like there was such a massive learning curve that I had to go through, not only on the water, but mentally off the water. That without going through it, I would have never arrived at where I feel like I've arrived at. I've learned so much about this sport, in particular how to fish on the elites in the last 6 months than I did in the first entire year. Because the first year I was so focused on, like, just going for broke, just trying to get a blue trophy, and however I thought that was going to be the deal. Like, I wasn't thinking about, like, okay, let's just play it safe. Let's go get a limit first. Like, I'm like, no, bro, we're going to swing for it. Like, it was like a change in my mindset. And then to go into this past year, to really understand now how to play the game a little bit better, how to navigate other anglers, how to navigate, how to expand off spots that you've found, how to turn one bite into a winning area, how to turn, like, it, how to be able to let go on key fish that you lose. I think that was that's always been something that I think everyone struggles with as an angler. But then I tell myself, give yourself 10 seconds, have your little emotional internal fit, or external if you're Ike, and then, like, from there, just, like, let it go, because you still caught a good fish, and that means that they're biting. So get that past you, and you can catch another one. And more times than not, I end up actually catching another one. Like Murray, I dumped a really good one, and literally the next cast I stuck another, like, it was another really good fish that I needed. And not to dwell on the what ifs. And so there's a lot that I've learned. I don't know how I'll be able to carry it into my 3rd year, because it's still fishing. I saw one of my heroes, Polinick, like, bomb on 2 of the most incredible fisheries that I've always thought him as to be like, oh, you're automatic top 10 in both of these spots.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those sports where it's like, as much, again, goes back to our initial topic, is as much time and effort that you could put in on practice and all this stuff, when it's not your time, or things just don't go well, it's not going to go well. And it's sometimes this is not in the cards, and you got to be okay with that. So I think going into it with, like another chance, going into it with the feeling like, okay, you get another crack at this thing. I think I'll be knowing how to seasonally chase these fish and regionally, which I think are two big things that as a West Coast angler, and especially someone coming from Hawaii, never had to really make too many adjustments. I mean, California, you make some adjustments, but a lot of those West Coast, I was talking with Ty Al, who fishes MLF. He was like, dude, a lot of the stuff that we do on the West Coast does not translate to the rest of the country. And I'm like, dude, 100%. Because I would think like, oh, we can still throw a 5-pound test Neko and they're gonna eat it. And then other times you got like a guy like, sea rigging 25-pound tests and busting their face. And I'm like, wait, huh? Like, and so there's certain things that I'm like, I've had to learn and I've had to adopt now into my wheelhouse. And now knowing regionally what the patterns that hold, how can I still put my little twist on it the way that I like to fish? And then also the electronics game, because I feel like being able to play that game now, since I don't think that's going anywhere. So I'm like, okay, why fight it? Now we're gonna go and do the same thing,
But that alone, dude, I mean, the electronics thing, like, I mean, I've kind of joked about it, but the boat you qualified on was far from state-of-the-art electronics. So literally you've had to not just learn how, I mean, you remind me so much, and I hope you take this as a compliment, and I hope he takes this as a compliment, but you remind me so much of Carl Jacobson. And you have from the moment that you joined tour. Gosh, you have so much going for you in so many ways. You know what I mean? Your ability to talk to crowds, your ability to entertain on camera, and just like Carl. But I feel like you also both have had a mountain to climb as far as the fishing end of things. I mean, he came from a country where they didn't have bass or the same bass we have anyways. And but I mean, it's the toughest place in the world to learn. But I mean, somehow you guys have both. I mean, Carl obviously has really, especially the last, number of years, has really, solidified himself as part of the Elite Series, not just winning, but now a couple of classics qualified. But am I wrong in that analogy?
No, not at all. I mean, as much as it's funny that you say Carl, because as much as Brandon was someone that I looked up to for a while, Carl was right there with him. And it's ironic that they're all just that it's all just like this group. But I mean, you nailed it on the head, man. Like I always this is a crazy story. I was in New Zealand on a fly fishing trip back in 2008 2019, I believe. So this is 1 year after I started competing. I was out there with a friend of mine on Lake Taupo, and he was an Australian.
So sorry, you started competing in 2018. Is that what you're saying?
My first tournament was 2018.
Okay. All right. Just keeping score here for those of you keeping up and saying this can't be done. I mean, literally you're living proof that you started fishing tournament 2018. I digress. Continue with your story.
You're good. But I've always been like a multi-species, angler my whole life. I've had a fishing rod in my hand when I was still in diapers. So as much as I haven't been competing in fishing, I've been competing in other sports. So it's still a mental thing that you need. And that's why I think Brandon's so successful, because of his past with wrestling.
Yeah.
Carl with being able to grow up fishing for perch in Australia. We were out on the lake, having a great time. He was teaching me how to double haul. We were doing like streamers up in the river, catching these really great rainbow trout. And he goes, he's like, hey man, how's that mate Carl doing? Is he still on tour? Like, we just have all these people that are rooting for him and da da da. And I was following, the elites pretty closely, and I was like, yeah, he's killing it, man. Like, he's still on and da da da. Like, and then he just goes on to say, he's like, I don't understand. I don't see how he can do it. Like, there's so much things that are, working against him, but I give him so much credit for what he's doing and what he's able to accomplish. And so to be able to be in New Zealand, on the other part of the world, and to have, one of his fellow countrymen rooting for him, and for me being just a fan at the time, to now being compared with him, it's kind of this cool, like this neat circle, because I look up to Carl tremendously, what he's able to accomplish, with his, not only with his career, but with, with his wife and his family, and his house that he's, his just the life that he was able to set up for himself through fishing and through a passion and a dream, and then to be able to execute. And then he's also been in my situation. Like I was talking to him, he's like, yeah, man, with the ML, like what he said, the FLW, when I got kicked, he's like, I worked all this way, maxed out all my credit cards to get on tour, and then be on tour for like 1 or 2 years, he said, and then get kicked off the FLW tour. He's like, oh man, I've been there. like dude, like, and so it's, that's humbling, and I definitely take that in a positive way, because Carl's an incredible person and an incredible angler, someone that I definitely look up to and see as still as a mentor. So that's cool. We have bass in Hawaii, but man, when you're fishing for a smallmouth bass in like a stream that's 6 inches deep, that's only like 5 feet wide, it's a kind of a different game than to go out and fish like Lake Ontario. But cool, man.
So we can't do a podcast without talking about it, and you kind of talked about it a little bit.
Oh boy.
But from your comments on forward-facing sonar, it's not something you want to deal with, is it? Like that's what the way I read it.
Yeah, so my first year I fought it entirely. I had it on my boat because I knew that I needed it.
Yeah.
And I spent a lot of time trying to learn it. But a lot of times that in that first year, just trying to learn it, I was fighting my original way of going up, like just my whole process. It was throwing a wrench into my process on how I would attack certain things, to the point where I wasn't fishing how I wanted to fish, and I know I mentioned it a few times, like on stage, when I did catch that bag on Chickamauga, I didn't have it on, all I wanted to do was just throw a swim bait on areas that I thought that those fish would be setting up, and was able to catch the biggest bag of the tournament. So like that gave me like that confidence boost, like, no, dude, you're doing the right thing. But then to go down to Pickwick and get my face smashed in because I was too busy trying to like figure out where they should be, versus like going and looking and like, oh yeah, they're set up on the ledge and they're set up to feed right now, versus they're not set up to feed right now, just move on, go hit some stumps and then come back. So it was, this year having to make adjustments, also learning out of which ones are the best ones. I took and I'm not signed with any electronics companies, and I did this on by design, because I want to be able to run the best of the best. This isn't a plug for anyone, but this is just my own experience. Got to say all these disclaimers, right? So I was running an Active Target 1, and Stetson Blaylock was running the 2, telling me, the 2+ or whatever. He's like, yeah, it's night and day difference. I look at him like, yeah, it's actually really good. I'm like, I don't get that with this. I jump on Pebble's boat, and he has a Garmin, and to see how clear he was able to, be able to pick out certain things. And so after getting a chance of running both of them, I'm like, dude, so I was having issues with my Active Target just like freezing. And so after St. Clair, because I had it die on me 5 times during every day on St. Clair, I was like, you know what, I'm done. I went and pulled it. I was like, hey, if I'm gonna go out swinging, it's worth it. So I pulled the trigger, bought a Garmin, slapped it on the boat literally during a mega bass retreat, and learned how to use it within a week, dialing it in, like trying to learn how to use the interface and certain adjustments, and then was able to incorporate that into a finesse style that I also enjoy doing back in California. So it was interesting, because my hand got forced into a place where I'm going to do a technique that I'm not necessarily confident in, but I knew that this was going to be the deal. I knew that this was what it was going to take to actually finish up where I needed to finish. versus to go throw a swim bait for largemouth and try to stumble across like a 6-pounder. And don't think that I didn't try in practice though. Like I almost lost a punker to like a giant muskie that blew it out of the sky like 5 feet, because I was like, maybe they're going to eat a giant walking bait. And I tried the things that I wanted to do again to keep having fun, and that was like to keep that thread. I was like, I need to have fun right now, and chasing stuff around with a forward facing sonar isn't fun to me. Like I want to go and watch a giant fish blow up on a topwater right now. And I literally put everything away and just threw a mega dog for friggin' an hour, and then finally got like completely demolished by a muskie. And I'm like, okay, all right, I'm not gonna do that. Got that out of my system, and yeah. And then I was like, okay, now I know what I need to do to get there. So I think now with understanding the technology, I think Bass needs to make it. Before I was more on the Randy side of things, like Uncle Randy block it. I think I was more so, it's horrible for the sport. It's, it's killing fish, and I think he'll speak to some truths there. I do think now you're having more fish that are being targeted out of deep water with anglers that are irresponsible and are not fizzing fish and making sure that they properly go back. So I think that there's truth there. Do I feel like anyone can take this piece of equipment, slap it on their boat, and beat all of us on the elites? No. I think that Kyoya is an incredible angler with or without it, and he's even more deadly because he's able to use it. It takes an angler and it heightens their knowledge on fish behavior, and I think that's something that I'm like, I really started to tone in on. And during all this controversy, I'm like, yeah, I am the poster boy of no electronics and fishing intuition. But in a game now where Bass is funded by huge amounts of ad dollars by these companies, kids are now growing up with all this stuff, and that they're now being so addicted to utilizing it. This is just part of the growth of the sport. And now we just need to find ways to make it appealing, not make such a disparity gap between the wealthy and the have-nots. And I think that's where the challenge is, because I want to be able to encourage kids to go out, whether they're on a stand-up kayak or a paddleboard, whatever, and just to get out fishing. And I don't want them to look at me and saying, well, Maddie's using the forward-facing sonar, so I need to have it on my boat. It's like, no, look back at my old videos and see where I came from, because you can do it without anything on your boat. And as long as you're putting in the time and you're learning how to fish and casting, understanding certain places where they should be. And then now with 32 years of experience of fishing, now I'm able to actually see what the fish are doing, how they're setting up, and they're actually really similar to how I thought that they were set up, and like what my theories were on a lot of times. And now to actually see it play out in real time, I've become more deadly with it. So yes, do I think that Bass should now limit us to one transducer on a forward-facing sonar, 2 at tops? Yes, 100%. Do I feel like that's without a doubt? If you're going to limit us to not throwing A-rigs and limit us to a 250 horsepower motor, then you have to limit the amount of transducers, because guys running 4 forward-facing sonar transducers on their boats is completely ridiculous, and it's completely unfair. I believe that 100%, and you can stamp my name on that. Do I feel like we should get rid of it altogether? No, because you still need to know how to make the adjustments. If you don't know what a bass looks like on that thing, you're going to throw at a catfish and a drum all day. That's just because you don't understand how bass move and how they relate to certain things. Now, is there certain anglers on tour that are way better at deciphering those things? Patrick Walters, Cody Huff, Kyoya, Taku, like just to name a couple. Yes, without a doubt. But are you still going to have guys that are ridiculously good at sight fishing, like Cox and like Drew Cook and like a bunch of other guys that will still beat out a crew of forward-facing Sonar dudes scoping around if they're just bank beating. Yes. So you're not going to have this polarizing thing. It's still going to win tournaments, and Bass isn't going to just, it's a double-edged sword. Bass isn't just going to give up hundreds of thousands of dollars versus of advertising money from Humminbird, Garmin, and Lowrance just to appease a small demographic of older anglers that are poo-pooing the new technology. They need to get paid because it's a business, but there also needs to be regulation behind it. And if there isn't, that's when I'm like, okay, this is lame. I'm out of here, because that's when it really becomes, oh yeah, if you have an extra 50 grand to throw on your boat, and then you're going to be that much more successful. Like that's the thing that I wish that we were all on the same playing field. I wish we all ran the same boat with the exact same electronic setup and whatnot. So when MLF split off and did their thing, when everyone was running nitros with like all the same crap, I think that was more of an even playing field and cool aspect, because it really comes down to the individual, versus whoever's way better at rigging their boat is now going to be like, you made a mothership or the Death Star that's going to destroy everyone else. Like, okay, like that's what I don't know. So that's kind of like my 2 cents on it. And it's nuts, man. Like the fact that Kyoya was able to see when we were out on Champlain, I was fishing right around him the entire time. Like I was on the same winning fish that he was, but he was able to see with 2 transducers more than what Johnny and I were seeing when we were in the same area. You know, Micah Frazier was in the same area. He weighed, so this is why I'm like, we need to ask the question, is that fair? And I think anyone with a logical mindset will say no, because having 2 of one thing at 2 different distances for clarity and whatnot, like, and then also having one on your back transom where you can look back on a certain, and flip back to something that's 50 yards behind your port side, and your trolling motor still looking forward. Like, how is that fair? How is that any different than running a 250 versus a 300? So that was a heavy rant. Thanks for hanging on with that one, guys.
I think that it's.
What's your 2 cents? I'm actually curious. I'm curious on what I feel like you've seen both sides of it now, right? So
I've seen both sides of it. I've heard both sides of it. I'm honestly feel like there is no right decision. Like literally, no matter what is decided, there is a huge percentage of people that are going to walk away saying that decision sucked, and that's both pro and con of it. I feel like I don't know. I mean, there's it depends on the day with me, literally. Like I mean, even when you're talking, I'm like, there's times where I'm like, well, yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And then there's other times where I'm like, yeah, but that's somebody investing their time into getting better at that. They put all their, like, I think that's a lot of what we saw this year. There was anglers that literally were all of that. That's what they did every time. When it worked, they did great. When it didn't work, they didn't do great. I think some of the anglers that hurt themselves were the ones that tried to straddle both, because I think it's an incredibly tough thing to do. So there's part of me that thinks that it sucks a lot of the excitement out of the sport in many, many ways, because there's so many moments in my head that made me fall in love with this sport.
100%.
And none of those moments happened on a graph. You know what I mean? So as exciting as that is, so there's that part of me. But then there's the other part of me that, like, and it's not just my opinion. You ask a Rick Clunn. Rick Clunn says anything that gives us information about the fish to stop that is an offense to the sport and crazy. So kind of agree with him there. I literally don't know what the right decision to make is. And just by us having the conversation, there's going to be a bunch of people that are like, you idiots, it's so simple, just cancel it and get rid of this.
Is not right.
I don't know that it's that simple, because I also think we're taking, like, the last few tournaments are the worst case scenario, because, for example, it won Okeechobee. I didn't find it offensive at Okeechobee because there was one dude doing it. To me, it was a whole different. I was like, this is interesting. He's got a different total approach than everybody. And then in one screen over, I'm watching Steve Kennedy catch 8-pounders on a frog, which is what made me fall in love with bass fishing. So 100%. I'm like, so yeah, I don't know what the right thing to do is. I think that it's going to be one of those things that we're never going to agree. I mean, people are just literally, but here's the one thing that I will say.
Yeah.
If you hate it and you've never used it, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people that like, I think it's just become this, I hate it, you know.
I don't know why I hate it, but it's because it's like,
I just hate it.
Like, oh, was it like the angry mob in South Park? They're like, oh, ramble.
It's just wild. And I think that Lockett has some points. I mean, 100%. He definitely has some points. And if you don't, I mean, I've had Randy on the show a few times. I mean, I should have him on soon again, I'm sure. To have this conversation. But like the natural instinct and the ability, like in your head. And trust me, I use it. I go fishing and I've used it and had great success with it. And it's fun. I mean, there is a fun element to it. Here he comes. He's swimming. I got him. That's exciting.
Yeah.
But none of it is like when you're just throwing, for your example, a glide bait and you're just literally and whoa, it happens. Yeah. The shark attacks the seal. I mean, to me, that's so yeah. I don't know. I know no matter what I say, I'm going to piss somebody off. And
for sure. I think
probably not make anyone real happy.
I mean, you nailed it, man. I that's why I try to say that in the way that I was describing what because it's there's no easy decision that Bass has right now.
No,
but it's tough because it's a double-edged sword. Again, I'm conflicted. And so, yeah, it's tough because I see both sides, a little bit better than before. I was really against it 100%. And I think that was because I didn't understand it and I didn't have it on my boat. Yeah. And I didn't also have the money to go out and buy it. So I was like, this is, and that's a part of the issue too, right? Because fishing should be something that everyone should be able to enjoy, and fishing should be that excitement that all got us addicted to the sport in the first place. And so, yeah,
to play devil's advocate to that, tournament fishing has never been that, and hasn't been that for many, many years. I mean,
nothing has 2D, right? So like 2D dropping, you're still looking at a screen. So what's any difference of staring down at a 2D versus scoping them? So what are you going to do? You're going to cancel 2D?
I don't. That's what I say. Like, I mean,
it's tough.
And here's the weird thing. I think that the group that has the least amount of choice or anything in it is you guys, the anglers. Like, I mean, to me, whatever the decision is, guys are going to compete, whether it's let them rip and guys will show up with satellite dishes on their outboards and Lord knows what. Guys will still fish. If they say this is limited, guys will still fish. If they say that it is gone, guys will still fish. Some of them will be happy. Some of them will be sad. But to me, the most important group that needs to really believe in this is the viewers, because 100%. Without the viewers, and I get it. Yeah. Bass gets money from some graph companies. Every tournament organization does.
Yep.
We get money from a lot of different companies, and it's the responsibility of the sport to protect it. So again, and that just me saying that, here's the weird thing. Nothing you can say, dude, can't be just me saying that. Somebody will make a video and be like, you see, Mercer said that this. It's, I mean, Swindle did a poll that was as simple as him just saying, do you want to watch this or not? And he gave that. And people are like, well, obviously Swindle doesn't like it. And he had a tough season. And that's why it is. Like, none of that was said. It was literally, but
he's like this. He even premised it when he came out with it. He's like, man, I got it on my boat. Like, but this is also frustrating to me is because this is something that I've been talking about on live for the past 2 years. And then it took Gerald Swindle to come out with a post and like to do a poll for people to like, oh, maybe we should pay attention to this. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, like, guys,
no, but it
come
definitely
on.
seemed to like trust me, behind the scenes, it's been something I've talked about a lot for
Yeah.
well over a year, and said that this is you could feel the snowball building and getting bigger and more momentum and more. And then I remember coming in this season, it was like, how many is it's going to win? And then it wins, Okeechobee. And they're like, yeah, well, it's not going to do that the next one. And it won the next, you know what I mean? But it just definitely seems like in the last month, it has become. Why do you think that it exploded the way it did? Like, you think it was just a perfect storm of events?
I think it is. I mean, like, I think you nailed it with it being the last two events being forward-facing Sonar, like premised events, and then for them to actually be won on forward-facing Sonar. I think that gave it the premise was there. I don't want to watch this. It goes out. This is what it was. I'm sure their viewership dropped, but I don't know like how much it did. Maybe it didn't, and maybe that's just rumor or whatever, because there's a lot of unknowns, right, when it comes to stats on viewership and whatnot. It's like what the people think. There's a lot of people that are just making those comments that I don't want to watch that stuff, and other people are like, oh, actually I enjoy like learning. But it comes down, like you said, it comes down to the viewers, because without a fan base, you don't have a sport.
Yeah.
I mean, as a competitor, people are still at the club level, people go out and fish because everyone's competitive and they want to win money. So that won't go away. But on the highest level, on a professional end, you need viewership to be able to justify marketing dollars and etc. So it makes sense that you listen to what the viewers want, but then it's a hard way to gather all the metrics, because
of course
it's just either way. Like you said, it's an extremely tough decision. I'm like, you could have nailed it any more perfect, saying like on the day to day, because there's certain days where I'm just like, bro, this sucks, I don't want it at all, and then other days where I'm like, oh yeah, this is great, I think I'm actually okay with it. Like the last two events, I'm like, oh yeah, no, we're good, like, oh, I cash checks and I requalified with it, and it's not my game. That's not, and then that's the thing, it wasn't my game. Like, I'm not a forward facing Sonar dude, and I freaking requalified because of it.
But here's the difference. There's a but to that. Yes. Yeah. And that people are going to say that just even from hearing the story that you've shared here.
Yeah.
I'm not yet to find an angler that's not very good get great with forward facing Sonar. An angler that isn't very good becomes a little better with forward facing Sonar.
Yeah.
A great angler becomes greater with it. Like to me, you still have to understand what you're seeing. You still have to, know exactly how to make that fish react. You have to know how to take what you saw on the screen and make adjustments to make it work. So, I mean, that is the other bullcrap thing. Like if you could just buy your way to the top.
Go ahead, try. You could try buy your way to the elites. It's not going to work. I mean, and people think that too, and it's pretty sad, because I'm like, okay, well, have you tried it yet? And they're like, well, no. And you're like, well, okay, good luck. But I mean, but then also to contradict myself, like Sabine, I didn't use it. Like I had it on, but I wasn't. If you go back and you look at, I was using it more so I wouldn't blow my trolling motor off my boat. But besides that, I was sight casting every single thing, like that was like really what I enjoyed doing. That was like how I won on the Ouachita River, being able to sight cast around like laydowns, and and then to almost be able to win doing something like that. So like I think now finding a way to balance both. And I think, to your point, the people that try to balance both, it's incredibly difficult, because you'll have both sides of your mind try to pull you in different places. So you'll have one side that's like, you should go offshore and check it out and just see, and how much time do you want to allocate there? And then if you catch them, how much more time do you want to allocate there? And is that the winning deal? Or the other side, go shallow, screw those offshore fish. Everyone's outside scoping. There's going to be a bunch of fish up shallow because of X, Y, and Z conditions, and this is the time of year. then you go up shallow and you catch a couple and you're like, wait, are they offshore? No, keep going shallow. And so it's like being able to balance both of those voices, and then to be able to come together and be like, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'll go offshore for the first 2 hours, see how she shakes out. If they're not biting, I'm gonna go to the bank and I'm gonna go do that. And so I think that's kind of what I'm gonna try to adopt going into year 3, is like knowing when to silence that one side and then listen to the other. And then more so going back to what Pebbles said originally, just fish the day, man. And I think that there's certain things that will transcend time regardless of the electronics. Is fishing the day, fishing the conditions, fishing intuition will never be trumped by anything else. And I'm a true believer in that, because bass, just like humans, we change sometimes on the hour, and without making certain changes to certain like subtleties, you'll never be able to fully figure it out, and until you put time on the water, be able to understand, then you can start to getting it a little bit more. I don't know, it's kind of hard thing to describe, but
Yeah. Dude, it's all over the place. Like my mind goes nuts with it. Like while you're saying that, I'm like, well, nothing will ever outsmart. And I'm like, well, I saw some people catch fish that they didn't even feel hit. Like they literally just visually. I mean, I've got one, and start reeling.
Yeah.
So that's and Welcher said something on last week's podcast, and with the way he said it really made me think, and it's kind of worrisome.
Okay.
But he's like, the one thing that we figured out a long time ago, your percentage of catching a bass goes way up if you're casting at a bass. And as simple as that sounds,
true.
When you really think about it, my concern is like a long-term concern, like, dude, you fish that and you don't want to even drop your lure when you don't see one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That like it changes. It's kind of, and like similar to the Alabama rig. You ever go catch them on the Alabama rig, dude? You want to throw everything else out. Like literally you go catch them and you're like, I caught 3 at once. This was wonderful. Why do I want to throw a crankbait? This sucks. Little things. So it's wild. It's wild. But I mean, it's a topic that you could literally talk about.
We could go on for hours with, and I think that
getting sick of talking about it.
Huh?
Are you getting sick of talking about it?
I think right now it's just such a trending thing. I can't get away from what people are saying, because I'm part of the thing. And so people are like, well, how do you feel about it? What do you? I'm like, dude, I'm torn, man. Like I said, I got on, I qualified without it. I had a black and white freaking graph on my console and a small little dealio on the front that was like from 2008, and all I would use that for was my temperature and then the depth. Like I didn't have side scan. I had to learn side scan. I had to learn forward facing and all this stuff. And then now, after these past 2 years of learning all this stuff and now how to apply it and to kind of change the way that I approach certain things, I'm like, okay, well, I got all the way here now. So if you're gonna throw another wrench in it, well, however it goes, I'm like, I'm along for the ride at this point. So yeah, it's crazy, man. It really is. I do feel for the people at Bass that do have to make a decision. And I think that, ultimately, I think we need to start doing, as an organization, I think we need to start highlighting individuals more, making it more about the angler, less about the items that we're trying to sell. Because ultimately, if we're able to showcase personality, background stories, and hardships, that's going to draw in more viewership, because people are they're going to naturally
they connect to you,
grow empathy with those stories and those individuals, than just shooting up not only viewership but then sustained viewership. And and I think if there's a way to do that, and I think there's a way we can actually do that on Live in the Mix, and And nothing against Bowman, love you, Bowman, but like there's other things that we can be doing that will engage people on different demographics, that will transfer into sustained meaningful viewership. And so I think that there's ways not to. I don't think the answer is like, well, then put up the forward-facing Sonar screen next to it. It's like, no, dude, I don't want to watch a screen on a screen. Like that's not like
my answer to that is, so we're now watching screens. That's
yeah. So it's like I don't like I go out fishing to get away from this thing or to get but then I end up using the thing. But then I don't want to watch someone playing the thing. I don't want to watch someone play a video game while seeing the video. Like it's like, okay, yeah, if you go Comic-Con and that's the thing that you're into, go to that. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't think it's going to transfer into meaningful viewership, and I don't think you're going to grow the sport by doing that. I think that you're going to grow the sport by engaging in like what got these kids into fishing in the first place. Like, who was the person who got Polinick into bass fishing? Who got him into wanting to compete? What were the things that like he went through? What are the trials and tribulations that Carl went through to get here? What are the feelings and emotions that he went through when he got kicked off of FLW, and the things that he had to like?
He got kicked off the elites, just to correct you.
Was it?
Earlier. Yeah. He went to
yeah.
FLW after we kicked him out, and then he made it back here.
Okay. Sorry, Carl.
I let it slide the first time, but I was like, he said it twice. I have to defend him.
Yeah. Well, no, correct me because I'm doing horrible with details. But like Carl. Yeah, like I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, but that is, I think, what Bass's biggest advantage in this thing from the start has been. Bass is great at telling that story. You know, it feels like, again, forward-facing Sonar feels like it's pulling from that story. You know what I mean? Because now there's a group of people out there that doesn't even care what state, country you're from, or what you're. But if you use that, they don't like
you're
you.
The devil.
And if you exactly it's. And if you don't use that, it's crazy.
It's tough. It's really
wild. It's wild.
It's a wild one, man.
Okay, let's go in a whole other direction here. We spent way too much time on forward-facing Sonar. You competitively competed in surfing, and you said earlier in free diving, correct?
Yeah, I did more competitive surfing than I did in spearfishing. I did like just a couple of spearfishing events. And then I also played hockey, and that was like a huge part of my life.
This is the weirdest
yeah. I love hockey. Like I was that, and then also competitive paintball. But I've always been like a competitive person. But so growing up, right, in Hawaii, it's like, what do you do? You'll be surprised how many people that don't go to the beach. Like a lot of my classmates just aren't ocean goers. You don't have people that if being
it's just there all the time.
It is, and it's just like another part of your everyday life. And some people play it, and they know they have a respectful space and relationship with it, or they're completely fear it. And for me, my family, my dad would play in it, but then also had this very respectful fear of it. And I didn't have any surfers in my family. But then my uncle, my dad's sister's husband, was like, "Hey Matt, I'm gonna take you out on a boogie board and push you into a wave when you're like 5." And I remember the feeling of rushing down the face and getting that like, and boom, addicted. And so I then really started gravitating towards the water and being, and then from there surfing started taking off a little bit, but always wanted to be in sports. The Mighty Ducks came out in the 90s, right? And I was like, whoa, Gordon Bombay, and like knuckle puck time, and like skating around like the streets, with my neighborhood friends, crushing cans as pucks and using crappy KB toy hockey sticks. And so like and then when I had an opportunity in middle school to start playing roller, I fell in love with it because I was like, okay, I can be more physical than soccer, because everyone grows up in Hawaii playing soccer. I played soccer for like 7 years, AYSO as a kid. And then when I started playing, when I was able to start playing hockey, I played 1 season of hockey, and I tried to go back to soccer, and I started getting cards up the wazoo, and I'm like, I can't play soccer anymore. I'm out. I'm all in hockey, and I dedicated my life to hockey. I started reffing it. I started. I got on travel teams, and my dream was to play on the NHL. And this guy named Jeff Clark, who's from Boston, came over to do. He came over to do what is it, like clinics and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I told him, and we became friends. And he's like, dude, I was 14 or 15 at the time, and he goes, I don't want to crush your dreams, but the chances of you making it to the NHL, and if you don't leave the island, are slim to none. And I'm like, well, you just crushed my dreams. Like instantly, that was like the first thing that popped in my mind, because I was like heartbroken, because I was like what I wanted to do, like watching Steve Yzerman and all the guys in, you know, the Russian Five or whatever, you know, playing for the Red Wings, and I was so addicted to the sport. I'm like, man, he's right. Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I don't. So I kept playing a little bit, but then kind of fell away from it. And I was like, well, surfing's in our backyard. Surfing is like how a lot of people get put on the map out of Hawaii. It's either music or surfing, you know, and then acting. And so that kind of stuff started to filter in. Playing music started to filter in. But then the whole time this was all going on, fishing was always just that underlying current that just kept it all together for me. When like I would have like a crappy gig or whatever, I'd still go dive or go whipping for, you know, short, or go to the lake. Or like, let's say I had a horrible tournament on playing hockey, I'll just go back to the lake, go catch a couple peacock bass and be like, oh yeah, whatever. Or, you know, and so on and so forth. I was able to always keep that near and dear to me, while other things kind of came into my life and then like moved out of it. So yeah, I think I'm a competitive person, but I've also learned to let go too. And I think that's a part, an important part that I had to come to, because I was so competitive as a young adult.
Yeah.
And I think that when you're so competitive, that not only is it hurts, it's not good for your mental space, because your ego, now you don't know how to regulate your ego. But then you also hurt people around you, because then you are unnecessarily competitive with people that care about you and then may not be competitive. So like I learned that in like a couple different relationships, from like, why am I being competitive? Like when I don't need to be. And so I think it's like finding that healthy balance. Where does competition lie? Where does that space that you can be competitive, and where everything's on the line and like you're putting your blood, sweat, and tears into it? And then where's the other space where you can let go to it? And I think now, being in my 30s, I found this balance of like, oh, okay, now we're good. Or
Yeah.
no, it's not worth the win to deal with that. Or yes, 100%, I'm putting my foot down for this. And then to be able to step away from it and be like, yeah, let's go get some ice cream. I don't care what's going on, you know? And no, I'm not going to like be competitive racing you to the sidewalk because I got there first.
I think, but I think that's a real healthy competitiveness is something, and this might sound wrong, but I think that the male persuasion, especially all full of testosterone, it's too, like, you're always competitive, but you can't, like, to be the level of competitive that you're in your early 20s, it's very hard to sustain, to keep that going, because it's gonna wreck. You know what I mean? Like, it works in short bursts, so it works in other sports for short bursts, but the sport of fishing, it's so long and it's so extended. I think that it's, the balance becomes even more important. That's why, look at baseball. I mean, you can have a lot going wrong in baseball in your life, a lot of noise in your head. And a lot of baseball players will say, but when I step to bat, all that goes away and I just focus on fishing. You can't, I think, because it's so long. You know what I mean? Like the competition hours, your ability, like it's just a different kind of beast, I think.
Oh, it's a whole different beast. That's why there's no other sport like fishing. It's, you can be a pro and be in your 70s. Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say the wrong age of Rick Clunn, because I don't want Uncle Ricky coming after me, but
77.
So, to my point exactly, to have someone that has so much knowledge and the ability, like that guy is just like full of wisdom. I would love to just like sit down and just just have a coffee or a beer with whatever, and just to listen. And I remember, so he helped me get to my boat on the St. Lawrence, and he had a buoy, like a bump rail buoy on his seat. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, what is, like, is he using that to throw over the side and then that's just where he's storing it? I'm like, hey, what's up with the buoy? He's like, your butt shouldn't be lower than your knees when you're sitting, especially when using a hot foot, because that's just bad and like compacting your lower vertebrae, etc. And so I'm like, bing, like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna do that next year. Like, literally, I'm gonna go and get a buoy, and I'm gonna sit on a buoy because I want to be able to ride up a little bit higher. And then when you're getting slammed, like when you're going through like rough stuff, you're not just gonna absolutely destroy your lower back. And so it's like those little tips from someone who's such a veteran of the sport. I have like so much respect for it. It's like whenever he speaks, it's like a prophet speaking. I'm like,
Oh yeah,
like give me your wisdom.
it's wild.
Yeah, it's pretty
he's
cool.
incredible.
I think more so the ability to accept failure, and I think this is something I like to keep bringing up, and it's something that's helped me. It's when you accept failure and the way that you take a loss, that's where the true competitor comes out, because the ability to, what you do when you lose, how you accept it, and then how do you move on from it and grow from it, is way, way, way more of like a loaded, just a way more loaded thing to have to deal with than a win. Because a win is the easiest thing. You just take it on, absorb everything. It's just all this positivity and all this like praise, and it's easy. But the hardest thing is how do you get past the lose, and how do you not just carry that with you? And so I think like that's the thing. It's like, how do you, like, a true winner, and that's what I like to say, is a true winner is not how they take their wins, it's how they take their losses. And that's how I like to measure a true winner. But that's just a Wongism. Yeah.
A Wongism.
Yeah. Full of
Was
them.
that another idea? Exit idea? I'll just write a book of Wongisms.
Yeah, there's a Wongisms. It'd be a great coffee table book. Like 2 Wongs don't make a right, but 3 might.
No, dude, I think you're a valuable part of the Elite Series, and that I think what you went through is just a chapter. You know what I mean? I think they're all just chapters, and obviously, I hope next year goes super smooth and you don't ever have to feel that stress again. But like I said at the beginning, it's the sport of fishing. There's going to be stress, whether it's for, I got to get in that last classic spot, I got to win Angler of the Year, got to win Rookie of the Year, got to requalify, all of those things. Here's my last question, because I honestly, we've talked about Carl, we've talked about you, we've talked about so many different people coming from so many different walks of life. But I believe, for whatever reason, and it's not just the person that introduces it to you, but people that are in this industry, fishing people, and it doesn't have to be Elite Series. Mm-hmm. It could be a guide. It could be a commercial angler in Hawaii. It could be anything. Mm-hmm. But fishing's like a thing that's in you. Like, I think we just all come equipped. Like, and all I can go back to is, it's like your forefathers had. And it's the same thing in hunting. There's people that they have that in them. Mm-hmm. Is that something you have in you?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Without a drop of doubt. My dad was the first one to take me fishing. I was like barely able to walk, and I still have a memory of holding on to his pant leg with one hand, gripping it for my life at the bank of a soft little pond, and then the other hand, like, not trying to fall in, and then my other hand on a bamboo pole catching tilapia.
Wow.
And those are some of the most purest forms of joy that I ever experienced in my life. And I was like literally 2 or 3 years old. And I'll never forget that, because the excitement of getting the bite and then feeling the rod bend and whoa, and then to bring it in and to see this creature that now that's out of its element, and then to be able to like, oh man, we put a inflatable pool in the front yard, and I remember I would bring fish home, and after taking a bath to go to sleep at night, I would go and like sneak out real fast and then just like play with the fish that were, or we always had fish tanks growing up, because I always needed a water element. I think it's more so for me, it's being a fisherman, the hunter, however you want to, string it to the lineage of being an outdoorsman. But for me, it's like water is something that's like always a centering element. And that's why I think being a waterman, and that's as an identity, like I'm a surfer, I'm a diver, I'm a fisherman. All these things that are centered around water is always something that, like, as soon as you take water away from me, that's when I'm going to shrivel up and die. And I think that our fellow anglers, regardless of where you are in the world, I think that if you think, no, I'm an angler, it's like, no, man, I think you have a connection with water, and being on it, being around it, there's something that we all kind of come together. I think being I'm bad on details, but the amount of percentage of water that's in our bodies, there's something that goes on that we cannot understand, on a mental level, on our connection to it. It's greater than us. And it's something that I will always find relaxation in, tranquility, but then also having healthy respect and fear for, because I've seen all faces of water. And one of my favorite quotes by the great one, Bruce Lee, water can flow, water can crash,
be water.
Be water. You put water in a teacup, it becomes a teacup. Be water, my friend. So
I think there's no better way to finish this than that right there. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I might even call it "Be Water, My Friend." Seems like a good name for this. But dude,
yeah, I like it.
I'm excited to have you on the Elite Series for another year, and I'm predicting many more years after that. And hey, I will tune into your fishing show when it comes out, because I'm sure it'll be a good one. But I hope we keep delaying that.
Yeah, I'll keep it on the back burner as long as we can keep on this ride, man. And if however I can merge the paths, I'll still be doing my YouTube show. So that's something that, if you guys haven't subscribed yet and you want to hook me up, please give me a subscribe, hit the notifications, all the good jazz. I try to put out one every single Monday, and I try to give an unadulterated version of the Elite Series through my eyes and what you go through on a day-to-day. So not all of it is tournament stuff. You'll also find I'm going to be editing an adventure that I had with one of my good friends. We're catching a bunch of mahi, and I actually catch a big old 30-pound ono, or wahoo.
Nice.
So it's again, tapping into the multi-species thing, different adventures, tackle tips, all kinds of stuff. So go ahead and check me out there. So
all right,
like I said, little plug.
And I will make sure to put a link in the description and in the comments. The one and only Maddie Wong, I thank you for your time, your honesty, and your insightfulness.
Well, thanks, Dave. I always enjoy talking with you, and it's a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to being able to share the stage with you again this next coming year, man.
Be water, my friend. Be water.
Be water.
Great stuff, as always, from Maddie Wong. I thank him for his openness, his honesty, and, as always, his positivity. But that's not all. We got more. Logan Parks, a Bassmaster Open EQ angler, currently sitting in 15th place. Top 9 make it to the Elite Series. He's got 3 events left to go. But college and high school fishing are a big thing. A lot of people talking about them. He is a big recipient of that, the benefit of that, and he has not forgotten that. So let's join him right now, Logan Parks. Logan Parks. So basically, you won a really big tournament, won a whole bunch of money, and fishing tournaments wasn't good enough for you anymore. You're running a tournament.
Yes, Dave, I'm putting on a tournament this fall. As you know, high school and college fishing is something I'm very passionate about. I grew up through high school fishing, through Bassmaster, and college fishing as well at Auburn University, and trying to create a way to give back to the sport of high school and college fishing and create new opportunities for those anglers.
Right away, you're so different than me. Like if I won that kind of money, I would have disappeared somewhere or shown up in a bad way somewhere else. Why are you, I mean, it's easy to say you want to give back, but why is it so important to you to do this now?
I think because I was in their shoes not too long ago, and I'm still, on the road to qualifying to where I want to be as a legit professional angler on the Bassmaster Elite Series. I'm not there yet, but I know how difficult this road has been for me, especially like financially. And I know there's a lot of really good high school anglers out there that maybe can't afford to go to college, and a lot of college anglers that can't really afford to fish the opens, straight out of college. So I kind of want to create this opportunity for high school and college anglers to, fish for scholarships and big payouts. That something they don't really get to do. I mean, they get to fish for some awesome stuff, but in the end, you need some money to help pay for school or those entry fees. And I hope that through this, they can do that.
So how does this tournament, other than the obvious, I mean, it involves both high school and collegiate anglers, which I think is pretty cool because, one's in the spot, the other one wants to get to, and, it kind of like but why is this one different?
The format is super unique. As you mentioned, it's a high school and a college angler together as a two-person team, which I think is awesome because I just kind of got thrown into college fishing and I, didn't know what I was doing. First term is Toledo Bend. There's trees sticking up out of the water everywhere. It's my first college event. And so this is a great way to kind of bridge the gap between high school and college fishing and start introducing those high school anglers to those college coaches and college presidents and teams. It's a good way for colleges to recruit and high school anglers to showcase their skills to those colleges that they may not otherwise have an opportunity to do so besides social media, just reaching out. So that's one avenue, but also the format is super unique. It's going to be a kind of a bracket style tournament day. It's kind of complicated. I'm not going to try to confuse you too much about it, but basically we're going to split off the groups throughout the day. It's going to be a total weight, every fish counts format where they can submit their catches through the Fishing Chaos app. We're using tournament certified scales. All the anglers will have the same scales. We'll have guidelines of how they're supposed to take the pictures of the fish on the scales. And the high school and college guy will work together as a team to build their total weight and hopefully take home the big, prize at the end of the day. We're going to be giving away almost $45,000 in total scholarships and cash prizes. So it's going to be an awesome opportunity for these guys. And I think it's going to be a little bit higher stakes than they typically get to fish for.
So outside of the stakes, the big thing that you mentioned that seems exciting to me, if I'm in that situation, is recruitment. Obviously, Abu's a sponsor of this. Abu's also a big sponsor of the Combine, which is pretty cool that a company's putting that kind of push behind collegiate anglers and helping people get there. But how can they get recruited? What realistic opportunities are out there through your tournament?
So there's a few different opportunities. We've got some of the top colleges in the nation participating. Montevallo, Auburn, Carson Newman's assistant coach will be there scouting. I mean, those are the top 3 school of the year teams last year right there. And I think we've got a little bit over 12 or 14 different colleges signed up so far. Hope to have more by the time that registration is ended. But the coaches will actually be there, and they actually give scholarships to high school anglers to come and fish for their programs. So, these high school kids can come and fish, and if they do well, and they get noticed and introduce themselves to these coaches, they may end up getting maybe even a full ride out of it. I've actually got a scholarship at Auburn University that I started, with some of the winnings from that tournament, and the Auburn team will be there, and they might be deciding who gets that scholarship for next season. So it's going to be a great opportunity to for these high school guys and for the college guys to kind of pick the top high school guys in the country and really go after those guys. It's crazy that the sport is just growing so much. When I was getting into it, there was a few schools that offer scholarships, and now there's like 25. So it's awesome to see.
Wow, there's that many schools that are offering scholarships.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. They even got sports agents out there for these high school kids these days. So it's pretty cool to see. And it's a fast growing sport, and I hope that this tournament will help continue to grow the sport and create new opportunities for these young anglers.
It really is amazing how quick it continues to grow, because I remember when literally the idea of a scholarship for fishing was literally a fantasy thing. And then you thought, okay, we're starting to hear about it, but it's 2 or 3 different colleges, universities that are doing this. It's not a number like 25. I mean, 25 schools doing it. And with that growing every year, I mean, this is realistic now where kids can get legit scholarships.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's just the small schools for the most part right now offering the scholarships. The scholarship at Auburn is one of the only D1 scholarships available for fishing. And I think it's just a matter of time before all of these schools start to realize that these kids are coming from across the country to fish for their program. And I think that we'll see some exciting things in the next, 10, 15 years. And I hope that through this tournament, we can, kind of showcase how important that this sport is and the sport of high school and college fishing, and how cool of an opportunity that it really is.
You say we'll see some exciting things in the next 15 years. Let's play Fantasyland. Where do you think it's going to be? I mean, because I don't think anybody 10 years ago, you could have asked anybody in the industry, they wouldn't have guessed it would be where it is today. I mean, it's traveled so fast. Where do you think collegiate fishing is going to be 10, 15 years from now?
Who knows? I mean, it could become some kind of NCAA sanctioned sport. I don't know how how that would work, but it would be really, really cool to get even more eyes on it. I think that's kind of the one thing that we're kind of struggling with bass fishing, is just trying to get as many eyes on the sport as possible. And while there's a lot out there that aren't watching fishing. So hopefully over the next 15 years, we can work with awesome companies like, Bassmaster. Abu Garcia obviously very much believes in the youth anglers. And if we continue to support the youth anglers, they're going to grow up to become potential superstars one day and grow the sport even more. I think that's just what we got to focus on, is creating new opportunities for as many people to participate in the sport as possible and, get more eyes on it.
So if I'm a high school angler, how do I go about becoming part of this? Do I need to find a collegiate partner, or do they get paired? Is it a random draw? How does it work?
So that's another cool format of the tournament. We're actually going to have a draft. So these high school kids will come and fish for 3 days. They'll practice. They don't have to practice, but it's encouraged. And they can just submit their fish like they would in the tournament throughout practice, using whatever skills they have. And we're going to take their best total day weight, and we're going to rank these high school kids 1 through 125. So practice will be November 8th through 10th, which is a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, we're going to have off limits. We're going to have our tournament meeting, explain everything, explain how the tournament day is going to work. And we're actually going to have a draft where a somewhat random order of these college guys picks their high school partner. They're actually going to draft their high school partner. So we're going to call it draft day. And it's going to be super awesome. I think it'll really encourage these high school guys to come out here and practice. And, you don't want to get picked last. It's like getting picked last in the PE basketball team or whatever. But if you want to get involved, we're taking 125 high school anglers and 125 college anglers. Right now, we're at 100 total anglers, and it's 50-50. So there's only, about half the amount of spots left for both high school and college. If you want to register, you can go to the Fishing Chaos app or the website and sign up. It's the Logan Parks Fishing Foundation High School College Chaos Tournament. And if you want more information, you can check it out on my social media. I've got a detailed video explaining how the actual tournament day works, and you'll understand why it's called the Chaos Tournament, because it's going to be pretty crazy.
It sounds pretty cool, and it sounds like where do you? I mean, nothing like this has ever existed before, has it?
No, I was just sitting around kind of brainstorming with guys at Fishing Chaos, and I kind of came up with an idea of, that I wanted to work with high school and college anglers, a little bit more closely than I am, and trying to figure out a way to do that, and played around with the idea of a tournament. And I was like, well, I don't want to just create any tournament. So let's create the craziest, tournament we could ever think of. And that's what we did. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Is there an entry fee to this? I assume there has to be, right?
Yeah, it's $150 a person. And that includes an $80 scale that you get to keep. We're also going to be giving away some shirts and a lot of awesome prizes. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be well worth your money to come sign up, and hopefully, you get to win $15,000 as first place prize. So it's going to be awesome.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, moment of total honesty, we are jamming this interview in the middle of like you trying to leave for the Opens. But dude, speaking of the Opens, you're in a good spot. You came so close to making the Elites before, I think literally one spot out of making the Elites. Well, you're sitting in 15th, top 9, move on. And how many events you got left?
We've got 3 tournaments left. And I guess because Kenta is in second, he would be a double qualifier. So I'm only 23 points back out of 10th place. I mean, that's really just one good tournament. So I feel good about it. I mean, it's crazy. We still have 1/3 of our season left. I mean, if you look at it that way, and it's already September. So, but it's going to come down to the wire. And I think whoever has the last good event is going to be the ones that get in. I mean, realistically, 25th place and higher is still in it. So
how has that whole experience been for you this year? I mean, because the EQs were something, I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of the industry was shocked that 175 people signed up for it. Like, I think the number of people were throwing about is like, if they get 100, that'll be good. 175 anglers, but it also feels like the whole Opens in general took a step up. You know what I mean? Just maybe, and from the outside, maybe that's just what it feels like to me, but it just feels like there's a lot more pressure on everybody. How has your experience been fishing the Opens this year?
Man, it's been mind blowing. I mean, I feel like I've taken what I learned last year, and I came in 7th in points last year, and through double qualifying, they ended up taking 6th. So I was barely out of it. And I feel like I took what I learned last year and I've improved a lot. I've been making better decisions all season long. And I was looking at the points after the 5th Open. I was in 12th place at that point, and I was averaging, I think it was a 35.6 place finish. And I looked at the points compared to last year, and last year after the 5th Open, John Sukup was leading with a 35.6 average. So it's crazy how good these guys are catching them. I think that that a huge number of EQ guys has really pushed. I mean, I think we've gotten a huge wave of talent come over from various platforms and fish with us this year. And you've got young guys like Trey McKinney that are just freaking whacking them. And my roommate, John Garrett, I mean, he's been fishing Opens for like 5 years. And he's got some really experienced Opens anglers that are really catching them. So competition's stiff, man. I think it's just going to keep getting more and more difficult. So need to catch them this year and go ahead and get in.
Yeah, get that over with, because it doesn't look like it's getting any easier. But thankfully, to cool programs like what you're doing, it does get easier. I mean, dude, you look at the collegiate fishing setup and, obviously how far it's come in such a short period of time. It's come because people have done cool things. Like, I mean, I remember the day that Jerry McInnes said we need to have a collegiate angler in the Classic. And I've told the story over and over again, but I fought it. I was like, that is the worst idea, just literally because I thought I'm always go back to the elite guys. You know what I mean? They do it for a living and everything. But how wrong was I? Like, literally made a decision like that. And from that day forth, I mean, legit stars of this sport have made the classic and gone on to great things. So I commend you for putting the effort that you're putting into this tournament, and I'll put all the information in the description, so hopefully people can get over there and become part of your chaos.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. I really appreciate you having me on. And then high school, college guys, sign up before it's too late. You do not want to miss out. It's going to be an awesome time.
Sounds good, and I look forward to seeing you on the Bassmaster Elite Series next year. Congratulations. If you're still listening, you made it. This podcast is almost at the end, and I know it was a long one, but as I always say, you can't cut a good conversation short to just jam it into a time slot. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you had to break it up into a few bits, that's fine too. I will make sure to leave all of the information for Maddie Wong. Give him a follow. Obviously, Logan Parks, everything he's working on. I will put all that stuff down below in the description and in the comments. And I thank you guys for tuning in each and every week. But before I go, one more time, I want to remind you, your fellow angler is not the enemy. Enjoy being. Have a great week. And we'll see you next time, right? I really got to go to the bathroom.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?